With playing Frank Sinatra for Marianne, Arthur's mom. Arthur, welcome back to the show, man. We got you on the phone. I know you're in court. You're kind enough to join us, and we appreciate that always, Arthur. How you doing this morning?
Thank you, Joe. I love that song. I'm sorry I can't be there. We can't do the dueling blue shoes together. What color are you sporting today, Joe?
Yeah, brown. I'm rocking brown because
brown today.
that is the color of our dads, as my buddy Neil Cavuto would say. And I have a little brown happening, but it's a bold brown. So what color do you have, Arthur? As we compare our
you can Joe. You can pull it off. I'm very conservative today. I got like a federal court thing. You know, they like you to dress in a certain way. Justice Scalia told me, he goes, navy blue or charcoal gray. Those are the only two colors he wants to see before him when people are arguing.
Really?
Now, who would know that little fact?
Yeah. Not black. Not a black.
He didn't want to see black. He didn't want to see brown. Those were his two colors, navy blue or charcoal gray.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, Joe, a little piece of Supreme Court trivia. If you walk through the halls of the United States Supreme Court, they have portraits of all the former justices, right? It's only when you step down or pass away that your portrait goes up. And obviously, you do that portrait way in advance. They made a joke to Scalia, I don't know, 20 years ago, you should get your portrait done. He's like, oh, I'm only 65. They're like, yeah, you want it done when you're 65 and not done when you're 80. Because you're going to look a lot better. But he's the only justice who has his robe undone. All of them have their robes all the way zipped up. His robe is all undone, and he's the only guy wearing a blue shirt. They're all wearing white shirts because he wanted to be like a blue-collar kind of guy, a guy from Georgetown and Harvard, but he wants to be a blue-collar guy of the people. And he has behind him in the portrait is the picture, his wedding picture. You can see of him and his wife, and of Thomas Aquinas, who was somebody who he very much admired and looked up to. So a little United States Supreme Court trivia here on Piscopo.
Hey, so what's the word on Ruth Bader Ginsburg? You hearing anything on the inside in that regard? Her health is okay?
Well, I mean, obviously, this woman has defied the odds, and I think her longevity is making her as much of a celebrity as her legal opinions have. And I think there was an article today or yesterday that President Trump already has in mind of appointing a woman who is Justice Scalia's former law secretary, who's actually a very devout Catholic, to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg's slot if she ever steps down during President Trump's administration. She's doing her thing. I mean, she's the cat with 9 lives. I got to tell you, changing topics for a second, the person who I hope has 9 lives is Mick Jagger, because I had tickets to go see him on June 13th.
I know.
And it was my son Luca's birthday Christmas present to see him on June 17th. But I read this morning that they have postponed the whole tour.
Yeah.
But apparently he's only going in to get one stent in his chest. And nowadays they give those things out like the way they give you a cavity for your teeth.
It's so true. It's the one stent tour. They're changing the name of it, actually. I said, Joe,
let me tell you something. The Rolling Stones in concert is, I mean, it's an experience. I went to go. I don't know if you remember. I went last year to Berlin.
I remember. In Germany,
because they didn't have any indication that they were coming to North America, and I wanted to see them one last time. Charlie Watts, the drummer, 77 years old.
Holy moly! I'm loving these guys. Hey, Arthur, let me
eat the 75.
Arthur, let me talk about. We got to talk about the issues of the day and these stories of the day. But work me through this. The judges that President Trump is appointing, the district judges, the federal judges that you don't hear about. There's a lot of those being appointed by this president. Yes.
And, those judges have more influence to some degree on our judicial system than the 9 United States Supreme Court justices. I mean, the United States Supreme Court justices sometimes impact our overall lives. But don't forget, those are federal cases, and quite often the states can alter those. So, for example, the death penalty, right? The United States Supreme Court says it's constitutional to have the death penalty, but the New York State legislature says, okay, but not in this state. So, but the lower court judges who President Trump is appointing, those are the people who, when you're in the Southern District of New York or the Eastern District of New York.
Yeah.
Those are the people who you appear before. And
Yep.
right now, quite frankly, I'm appearing before many of President Obama's appointees. And I will tell you, Joe, people think it's all about politics. Some of his appointees are very reasonable, and some of them are not. I mean, there's one judge in the Southern District of New York, and I think he's been there 6 years, and he's never had an acquittal in his courtroom. Everyone who goes to trial in his courtroom is found guilty. Now, I don't know, that doesn't sit very well for me. So people should stop pigeonholing like, oh, Obama's appointees, because he was a Democrat, they're all going to be these liberal judges with states and let everyone out. But meanwhile, George W. Bush's appointees, some of them are more liberal than Obama's, or more liberal. When I say liberal, I mean in enforcing the law and giving defendants their rights, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, President Trump is doing the best that he can, putting as many filling. But there's a lot of vacancies in the federal judiciary because of the gridlock in Congress.
It's so true. Hey, Arthur, this Karina Vetrano, this tragedy. Why do you think the first jury had such a hard time convicting this killer?
Because, Joe, there's something about that case that doesn't smell right. I mean, I hesitate because I wasn't in the courtroom. I don't know the evidence. I don't know what came out.
Yeah.
But apparently the defendant himself is I think he's described as a simpleton, which is probably a nice way of saying he has a very low IQ, maybe bordering on mentally disabled. And it doesn't seem like he has the sophistication to commit this crime. There were questions about his confession and whether it was coerced from him. Last night, the judge on the first day kept the jury very late. And I know the judge, and he's a good guy, he's a good judge, but he kept until 9:30 at night. That's not typical anymore. And one of the jurors said, I felt forced to find him guilty. And everyone's like, oh, there's DNA. You know, I don't throw accusations around, but DNA is something that could be placed somewhere if it didn't exist somewhere else before. I don't know. That is not a very clean-cut kind of case. And I think the Legal Aid Society is going crazy. They're the ones who tried the case because the lawyer got a letter. I think it was yesterday. It was either yesterday or Friday, which seemed like it was someone from inside the NYPD giving them some ammunition that like things were not done the right way here. They begged the judge to open up some sort of a hearing to at least inquire about it, and the judge refused to do so. And they basically said, we're going right to the appellate court because when you have a letter like this that seems very credible in a homicide case where a guy's facing life in prison, you want to make sure that everything is done the right way. And you know what? Even for the deceased family, you don't want the wrong guy going to prison and the guy who actually did it is Coney Island on the cyclone. You want the guy who actually did it to go into prison. So that case, I don't think the story is written yet on that case.
Very interesting, and our hearts go out to the Vetrano family, certainly, Arthur. Hey, Arthur, let me ask you about this Jussie Smollett thing, man, and because we've been talking, there's so many legal things happening that I want to pick your brilliant legal mind about. What is going to go on now? The FBI will probably go after this kid, correct?
I mean, there's definitely an investigation probably already going on. I wouldn't be surprised if there's already an investigation going on into the DA's office and what that their equivalent of the DA's office there.
Yeah.
And because I don't know, it's just that instinct inside of you that something is just not right here. This is not how cases are handled. Like even if the prosecutors figured that they wanted. They weren't going to send him to jail, but they wanted him to be punished. There's usually not that rush to give the defendant that degree of satisfaction. Not Joe. 16. Your father was a lawyer. You know what this means. 16 felonies he was indicted on. Not like a little misdemeanor. I mean, he was indicted on 16 counts. So all of a sudden, they're all out the window. And the bizarre part, and I blame Smollett's attorney. The bizarre part is they come out of the courthouse and they're saying he's exonerated, he did nothing wrong, and nothing happened. Simultaneously, there's a press conference with the chief of the DA's office who made this decision saying, oh, no, we had evidence. Our evidence was strong. He definitely did this, but we just thought this was the correct punishment. You know, when you're a lawyer and your client, for one way or the other, escapes, you don't make a big deal out of it. You just say, thank you, he looks forward to moving on with his life, goodbye, and you just disappear into the sunset. So they made an erroneous statement. And the other thing is, Joe, just backing up 1 second, the prosecutor, Miss Fox, she recused herself, but she's supposed to recuse her whole firm. She's supposed to say my district attorney's office that I run cannot be fair and impartial. So I'm going to the next county next to Cook County, and I'm giving it to that
good point.
Office
good
and allowing
point.
them to handle it. Not just that the guy who it'd be like, Joe, it's like you stepping out and having Morano and Gattuso in charge. I mean, they know you. You're their boss. They're going to do what they believe Joe Piscopo wants to be done. So instead, you say, you know what? I'm just going to give it to the Mike Gallagher show and let Mike handle it. Let Mike do what he wants to do.
Well, hey Arthur, too, about this Southern District of New York, man, and you know it, and it's a block away from here where you spend a lot of time as well, with the Donald Trump investigations and Gerald Nadler and Adam Schiff going after this, and because they couldn't, I don't even know what they're searching for anymore. First of all, if anything was done to candidate Trump, or the candidate Trump did anything that the Southern District of New York is going after, has nothing to do with him as president. Is this all going to come down, if it does at all, after the Trump presidency?
Yeah, yes. If it does at all, if there's any fire beneath all the smoke, they wouldn't do anything until afterwards. And again, I would think that Donald J. Trump is so far away from it, it would be people kind of underneath him. Like, I'll give you the example of Chris Christie with Bridgegate, right? Chris Christie doesn't go to jail, but the 2 or 3 people right below him who apparently were doing things are the ones who were getting in trouble. So I still think Donald J. Trump is not going to ever have handcuffs put on him. I can't say the same there's been too many people around him who have gotten jammed up. But I think, he is smart enough, and probably, people don't say this, he may be ethical enough to, walk that line. He goes right up to the line, he leans against it, but he may not cross it. Or if he wants to cross it, he's smart enough to have somebody else cross it. The guy who's really off the wall, and I read this big profile on him in the Times on Sunday, was Avenatti. I mean, wow. That guy, Joe, made so much money in his law firm before anyone knew who he was, and he still had to file for bankruptcy several times.
And it's good. I talked about this. I'm so embarrassed that he's Italian, man. I mean, this guy.
What are you going to do, Joe? What are you going to do? Oh, speaking of Italian, I'm going to make you laugh. On Sunday, I take Luca to Mass in Manhattan, and who walks in right after the Mass starts and sits right in front of us? A beautiful, beautiful woman, Matilda Cuomo.
The best.
And Mario Cuomo's wife, Andrew Cuomo's mom.
Glorious gal.
With her daughter, and they sat right in front of Luca, my son, did peace with her, and we took pictures with her.
Beautiful.
And I said, there's so many negative Italian-American images out there in our society, the bad people who get glorified. I said, your husband, Mario Cuomo, in my opinion, he and Justice Scalia in the 1980s were the beginning of lifting the Italian-American image to new heights in the United States of America.
Well,
and she was so happy. She hugged me. She kissed me.
Oh, Matilda is glorious. What a magnificent woman she is. She is just a stellar example for Italian-American women everywhere. Arthur, are you in court as we speak? You're about to go before a judge now?
Yeah.
Look at you. Look at you. Look at it. Takes 20 minutes with the Joe Show. This is great, man. So do you have in your head what you're going to say?
No, I want to be invited to the ceremony. I'm already invited Morano, so the one I read about Sunday in the newspaper.
I
wake up Sunday morning, I see a picture of Joe Piscopo and Carol Hall. I'm like, hey, feet on man.
I don't know. I got to compete with hockey players. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to make it. I said, did you see I tweeted her back? Huh? What do you think?
I think you can outbench him. I think you can lift more than he can.
I hope so.
And one thing's for sure, that hockey player can't play 5 instruments. So.
Arthur, I love you, man. Give your parents my best, and we love you for taking the time to join us always, Arthur Aidala. Go get him in court.
Kisses down with Frank.
All right, buddy. With kisses right back.